A waitress loses her job for simply helping a customer. But when the truth behind her firing comes out, it triggers a chain reaction that no one saw coming. Lindsay Caldwell knew the rhythm of Brookside Diner like the back of her hand. After 7 years of service, she could carry 3 plates at once, refill a coffee cup before it hit empty, and read a customer's mood just by the way they sat down. It wasn't just a job, it was a part of her. That night, the place was busier than usual. The dinner rush had settled, leaving a few stragglers sipping on cold coffee, lingering in their booths. That's when she noticed him. Khalil Jackson, early 30s, sharp features but tired eyes, sat near the entrance scanning the room. His laptop bag was slung over his shoulder, his posture stiff. He hesitated before taking a seat in the back corner, away from the noise. Lindsay saw him glance at his watch, then exhale, as if he had the weight of the world pressing down on him. She grabbed a menu and walked over. "Long day?" she asked, offering a warm smile. Khalil looked up, startled, then chuckled softly. "You could say that." She placed the menu in front of him. "You're going to have a hard time working back here. The lights flicker, and that booth wobbles worse than my uncle's knees. Let me get you a better spot." Before he could protest, she motioned toward a table by the window, brighter, quieter, and more comfortable. He hesitated, then nodded, clearly grateful. As he settled in, Lindsay returned to the diner with a fresh cup of coffee. "On the house. You looked like you needed it," she said before he could argue. Khalil gave her a tired but appreciative smile. "You have no idea." They got to talking just for a moment in between her rounds. He was prepping for a huge business pitch the next morning, trying to secure investors for a startup he'd been building for the past 2 years. "Everything's riding on this," he admitted. "I just need a quiet space to focus." Lindsay, always looking out for her customers, thought for a second. "You know, a guy comes in here all the time, local investor. You should look him up. His name is Ray Holloway. I can't promise anything, but I can tell you he likes strong coffee and people who aren't afraid to take risks." Khalil blinked, surprised. "You serious?" "Wouldn't say it if I wasn't." She shrugged. He thanked her, scribbling the name down, the tension in his shoulders easing just a bit. But not everyone in the diner was pleased. From behind the counter, Lindsay's manager, Gerald Knox, was watching, and he didn't like what he saw. 20 minutes later, as Lindsay was wiping down a counter, Gerald called her into the back. She barely had time to untie her apron before he shut the office door behind her. His face was unreadable, but his tone was clipped. "You're done here," he said flatly. Lindsay blinked. "What? You overstepped." She frowned, glancing back at the dining area. "For what? Helping a customer." Gerald leaned back against the desk, arms crossed. "This isn't your personal charity. You gave out free coffee. You gave out advice. You made us look." He stopped himself, choosing his next words carefully. "Unprofessional." Lindsay scoffed. "So that's what this is about? Because I treated him like a human being?" Gerald didn't answer. It hit her all at once. It wasn't about the coffee. It wasn't about the table. It was about who she had helped. Her stomach twisted. "You can't be serious." Gerald exhaled through his nose. "Clock out. You're done." She stood there for a second, too stunned to move. Then, wordlessly, she untied her apron, placed it on the desk, and walked out. As she stepped through the diner one last time, she saw Khalil at his table, deep in his work, unaware of what had just happened. Her hands trembled as she pushed the door open and stepped into the cold night air. What had she just lost? For doing the right thing. But the night wasn't over yet. Something was about to happen that neither Lindsay nor Khalil saw coming. Lindsay sat in her car, staring at the diner's neon sign flickering against the night sky. Her hands were still gripping the steering wheel, but her mind was stuck on the conversation with Gerald. Fired just like that. 7 years gone in a matter of minutes. She wanted to storm back in and demand a real answer, but deep down, she knew what it was. It wasn't about the coffee. It wasn't about her overstepping. It was about who she had chosen to help. Her phone buzzed in the passenger seat. Coworker. What happened? Gerald said you quit. Lindsay's stomach tightened. Quit. That was the story they were running with. Before she could respond, another message came in. Coworker. He said you were acting inappropriate with a customer and giving away free stuff. Are you okay? Her jaw clenched. Inappropriate. That was how they were spinning it. She yanked the keys out of the ignition and stepped out of the car. The night air was sharp against her skin, but the anger bubbling in her chest was hotter. She wasn't going to let them smear her like this. But before she could decide what to do next, the door to the diner swung open. Khalil stepped out, still holding the coffee cup Lindsay had given him earlier. He looked around, confused, then spotted her standing by her car. Hey, he called out, walking toward her. I just heard what happened. Lindsay folded her arms, exhaling sharply. They fired me. Khalil's eyebrows shot up. What? Why? She let out a bitter laugh. Apparently, I was being inappropriate with a customer. Khalil's face darkened. You're kidding. No. For a moment he just stood there, processing. Then his grip on the coffee cup tightened. This was because of me, wasn't it? Lindsay shook her head. No, this was because of them. Khalil ran a hand over his face, exhaling through his nose. This is wrong. Lindsay let out a dry chuckle. Yeah, no kidding. He took a step closer. You were just being decent. That's rare these days. She shrugged. Guess decency gets you fired now. There was a long pause. Then Khalil pulled out his phone. I'm not letting this slide. Lindsay frowned. What are you doing? He glanced at her, expression unreadable. I've got a decent following online. People need to know about this. Lindsay hesitated. I don't know if, but Khalil was already typing. By the time Lindsay got home, she felt exhausted. Not just physically but emotionally. She dropped onto the couch, staring at the ceiling, her mind running through every possible next step. But then her phone buzzed. Khalil had tagged her in a post. She clicked on it. A hard-working waitress at Brookside Diner was fired tonight for nothing more than helping me. 7 years on the job, gone just like that. If this bothers you, let people know. We can't let things like this keep happening. Lindsay's stomach dropped. The post had already gained hundreds of shares and dozens of comments in under an hour. This is disgusting. What's the name of the manager? Firing someone for being kind? They should be ashamed. Brookside Diner, you just lost a customer. Lindsay's pulse quickened. She hadn't expected this. Her phone kept buzzing. A text from a friend. A missed call from a former coworker. Even a voicemail from a local news station asking if she was willing to talk. Her head spun. This was getting big. But the real storm hadn't even started yet. What happened next would push things to a level no one saw coming. Lindsay barely slept that night. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. And every time she closed her eyes, another thought crept in. Had she made a mistake letting Khalil post about this? She wasn't the type to stir up trouble. But then again, she wasn't the type to let people walk all over her either. By the time the sun rose, the post had exploded. Over 10,000 shares. Thousands of comments. News outlets had started picking it up, and a hashtag Justice for Lindsay was trending. She scrolled through the comments, her heart pounding. I used to eat at Brookside all the time. Never again. Gerald Knox needs to be fired. Let's make that happen. Good people shouldn't lose their jobs over nonsense. Lindsay exhaled, her stomach twisting. This was so much bigger than she expected. Then another notification popped up. A direct message from Khalil. Khalil, hey, I know this is a lot, but I need you to see this. She clicked the link he sent. It was a video someone had recorded, Gerald talking to another manager at the diner. The audio wasn't perfect, but the words were clear enough. Gerald. She was making us look bad. Manager. Because she was helping that guy? Gerald, it's not a good look for us. Manager, you mean it's not a good look for you? Lindsay's breath hitched. This was proof. She gripped her phone. What now? Meanwhile, at Brookside Diner, things were unraveling fast. Customers started canceling reservations, and regulars walked out when they saw Gerald behind the counter. A few even confronted him directly. You fired that girl over nothing. One man snapped as he tossed a few bills on the table. Enjoy losing your business. Even some of the staff were shaken. A cook, Javier, pulled Gerald aside. Boss, you really think this is gonna blow over? Gerald, his face red with frustration, muttered, It'll pass. Internet outrage never lasts. But he was wrong. By noon, local reporters were outside, cameras rolling. A petition had started demanding Gerald's resignation. Khalil had gone on a live stream, speaking directly to thousands of people. This isn't just about one waitress. It's about the kind of world we're willing to tolerate, he said. Brookside's owner, a man named Richard Vance, got wind of it all, and he wasn't happy. Lindsay was sipping her second cup of coffee when her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost ignored it but picked up at the last second. Is this Lindsay Caldwell? A deep voice asked. She hesitated. Yes. This is Richard Vance, owner of Brookside Diner. Her back straightened. Okay. A pause. Then we need to talk. But Lindsay wasn't about to let them sweep this under the rug. Not after everything that had happened. And what Richard said next would change everything. Lindsay's grip tightened on the phone. Richard Vance. She'd only ever heard his name in passing. He was the kind of owner who never stepped foot in the restaurant unless there was a serious problem. And right now, that problem was her. What do you want to talk about? She asked, keeping her voice even. A sigh crackled through the line. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Lindsay let out a bitter laugh. You mean the part where I was fired for treating someone like a human being? Or the part where Gerald lied and said I quit? Richard cleared his throat. Look, this has gotten out of hand. The media is all over it and frankly, it's bad for business. I'd like to offer you your job back. No hard feelings. Lindsay nearly dropped her coffee. Her job back. After all this? For a second, she actually considered it. She needed the money. She needed stability. But then she remembered the look on Gerald's face when he fired her. The way he barely even tried to hide the real reason behind it. She inhaled sharply. You don't want to fix this, you just want the bad press to go away. Another pause. Then Richard's tone cooled. I'm offering you a way out of this mess. Lindsay. Take it or leave it. Her jaw clenched. I already got out. She hung up. The moment she ended the call, her stomach twisted. Had she made a mistake? What if she never found another job? What if no one else would hire her? Her thoughts were interrupted by another message from Khalil. Khalil, we should meet. I have an idea. A few hours later, they sat across from each other at a quiet cafe. Khalil wasted no time. I know you turned them down. Lindsay smirked. Word travels fast. He leaned forward. So what now? She sighed. I don't know. I didn't plan on turning into some viral controversy. He studied her for a moment, then slid a folded paper across the table. Lindsay hesitated before picking it up. It was a job listing. A friend of mine owns a restaurant downtown, Khalil said. She saw what happened and wants to hire you. Lindsay blinked. Wait, seriously? She values people who do the right thing. You'd be perfect there. Her heart pounded. A fresh start. A chance to walk away from all of this. But before she could even process it, her phone buzzed again. A news notification. She clicked on it. Gerald Knox, manager of Brookside Diner, placed on administrative leave amid discrimination allegations. Lindsay stared at the screen. He was actually facing consequences. She looked up at Khalil. You really didn't have to do all this. Khalil shrugged. Someone had to. She let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. For the first time in days, she felt like things were turning around. But this wasn't over yet. Someone else was about to come forward with a truth that would change everything. Lindsay hadn't planned on checking her messages again that night, but something told her to look. Her inbox was flooded. Strangers, former customers, even people she hadn't spoken to in years, all reaching out. But one message stopped her cold. Unknown number. I worked at Brookside for 5 years. You're not the first one this has happened to. I think you should hear my story. Lindsay's heart pounded. Not the first? She hesitated, then typed back. Who is this? A few moments passed before the reply came. Unknown number. Name's Daniel Whitmore. Used to be a cook there. Fired 2 years ago. Same reason. Let's talk. Lindsay swallowed hard. This wasn't just about her. The next morning, she met Daniel at a small diner across town. He looked like he'd been through it. Worn-out baseball cap, tired eyes, but something determined in his stance. I saw your story, he said, stirring his coffee. And I knew I had to say something. Lindsay leaned in. What happened? Daniel sighed. I was one of the only black employees in that kitchen. Did my job, never had complaints. One day I gave a homeless guy some leftover food. He didn't even ask for it. I just figured we were throwing it out anyway. Next shift I'm called into Gerald's office. He tells me I'm not a good fit anymore. No warning. No second chance. Lindsay felt her stomach turn. He fired you over that? Daniel nodded. And the worst part, it wasn't just me. There were others. A dishwasher named Maria. A hostess named Andre. Same pattern. Help the wrong person and you're gone. Lindsay's hands curled into fists. This had been happening for years, and no one had done anything. Daniel shook his head. I tried to fight it back then, but no one cared. Now people are watching. You have a voice, and I think you should use it. Lindsay sat back, her mind racing. She'd spent the last few days just trying to survive. But this wasn't just about her anymore. Khalil's words echoed in her head. This isn't just about one waitress. It's about the kind of world we're willing to tolerate. She exhaled sharply. We need to go public. Daniel raised an eyebrow. You sure? Lindsay met his gaze. I'm done being quiet. That night, Lindsay and Khalil recorded a video. She sat in her tiny apartment, the glow of a single lamp behind her, and spoke her truth. This isn't about a free cup of coffee. This isn't even just about me. Brookside Diner has been doing this for years, silencing employees, firing people who help the wrong customers. I'm not the first, but I want to make sure I'm the last. Daniel spoke next, sharing his story. Then Khalil. The video was raw, honest, and once it was posted, there was no turning back. Within hours, it went viral. Major news outlets picked it up. Celebrities retweeted it. The pressure on Brookside exploded. And then Gerald Knox disappeared. But what happened next was something none of them saw coming. Someone from Brookside was about to step forward with a confession that would change everything. The morning after this video went viral, Lindsay woke up to hundreds of notifications. News articles, interview requests, and a wave of support from people all over the country. But one message stood out. Unknown number. I work at Brookside. I have something you need to see. Lindsay's breath caught in her throat. She quickly typed back. Who are you? A moment later, a reply. Unknown number. Name's Rachel Denton. I'm a server, but not for long. Lindsay's fingers hovered over the keyboard. What do you mean? 3 dots appeared. Then a file popped up, an audio recording. Her pulse pounded as she pressed play. Gerald's voice came through, sharp and unmistakable. Gerald, Lindsay had to go. She made us look bad. Unknown voice. Come on, Gerald. It was just a cup of coffee. Gerald, it's the message it sends. We start letting this slide and suddenly people think we're okay with, A long silence. Then, unknown voice. You mean helping black customers? A harsh scoff. Gerald, I mean stepping out of line. She should have known better. Lindsay's stomach turned. This was it, the proof. She looked at Khalil, who had been listening beside her. His jaw clenched. We take this public. Rachel sent another message. Rachel, they don't know I recorded this, but they will soon. I just quit. Lindsay took a shaky breath. This was the moment. She sent the recording to the press. By the end of the day, Brookside Diner was in full collapse. Major networks ran the story. Protesters lined up outside. Gerald Knox's name was everywhere. Then Richard Vance, the owner, made a public statement. We do not condone discrimination in any form. Effective immediately, Gerald Knox has been terminated, and we will be implementing new oversight at all locations. But no one was buying it. Lindsay watched the press conference from her couch, shaking her head. They're just trying to save face. Khalil nodded. But they're losing anyway. Brookside's sales plummeted. Investors pulled out. Within weeks, the location where Lindsay had worked shut down. And Lindsay, she took the new job. The restaurant Khalil's friend had recommended welcomed her with open arms. She was paid better, treated better, and for the first time in years, she actually felt valued. As for Khalil, his startup took off. Investors who had once ignored him were suddenly interested. He turned a moment of injustice into a platform for change. And as for Gerald, no one heard from him again. Sometimes standing up costs you everything. But sometimes it gives you more than you ever thought possible. To anyone who's ever been wronged, ignored, or told to keep quiet, your voice matters. Use it. If you believe the story needed to be told. Her story wasn't just about a job, it became a movement. Because when you stand up, others find the strength to rise with you. Subscribe now for more stories that prove one voice can change everything.